Hey guys, Mention with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the iPhone 13 going into 2023, if it's worth it, if you should upgrade to the iPhone 14, which is the latest version, and kind of give you the rundown and everything you need to know about the iPhone 13 going in this year. So let's get started. So the iPhone 8 here, as you see in my hand, was actually released in September of 2021. It's kind of hard to believe this phone is actually more than a year old phone. And the thing about the iPhone 13 is that you'll find that the design here and the body shape and everything is very similar to the iPhone 14, and that might be true, and a lot of people actually mistake the iPhone 13 for the iPhone 14 because of how close the design is. Now the iPhone 13, which is a successor of the iPhone 12 here, has a lot of improvement from the 12 when you do upgrade it to it. It's a $800 phone. Now it isn't the Pro model, so you don't get those three cameras here, but as you can see here, the design and the body build is pretty awesome. It does come in multitude of colors. As you can see here, I have the product red one, but you can get it in black, you can get it in white, blue, and all these other shades of color as well. So a lot of colors for it. It does have, you got these 212 megapixel camera on the back, which are diagonally faced. You got the back glass here. It does have 5G capability here, and most importantly, it has the SIM tray for a physical SIM card, which we'll explain in a second why that matters. In the front here, you have a display here, 6.1-inch display. The display rate here is only 60 hertz. It's not the updated one, which the iPhone the Pro model has, which is the 120 hertz refresh rate. Again, does that refresh rate really matter or not? It's up to you. And then when it comes to hardware, it does have a A15 Bionic, a chip with 4 gigs of RAM, which is pretty much the same hardware that's used on the iPhone 14 lineup as well. On the 14, the regular model, not the Pro, of course. And when it comes to things like storage, you go from 128 gig, which you mentioned is the base model. You can also get it up to 512 gig for the max, but it doesn't have 1 terabyte storage here. And next thing we want to talk about is the battery life on this phone. So here, the battery on the iPhone 13 here, it comes with a 3227 mAh battery, a big size battery, gives you about 19 hours of video playback. Now you might be comparing that to the iPhone 14, which is the comparable one, gives you about 20 hours of video playback, very close, 19, 20, doesn't really matter. We really think it's very negligible if you think about actual time difference and depending on what apps you're running and using. So really not much of an improvement when you're looking at the iPhone 14. So the iPhone 13 does have a pretty decent battery, we would say, in that case. And of course, when it comes to things like the camera, very much so, the camera has a lot of those upgraded camera features, which takes phenomenal photos in terms of just regular photos. You got the portrait mode, which has all of these features available for you. And even when it comes to video recording, you can record from all the way to 4K 60 frames per second. And even to make it more interesting is that it does have a cinematic mode, as you can see. The one thing, of course, comparing to the iPhone 14, it doesn't have is the action mode, which allows the phone to be more stabilized when you're on the run or the go. But other than that, the camera pretty much goes head to head with the iPhone 14 lineup here. And then moving on to the software of it, you might have noticed we upgraded this phone to iOS 16 now. It comes out of the box on iOS 15, so this is the first major update, and it pretty much takes advantage of all the features that we reviewed in the iPhone 13 on the iOS 16 update, which you can take a look at. Make sure you guys check that video out if you want to upgrade to iOS 16, which is, again, most people have upgraded to iOS 16 just to be able to take all of those features. Now, in terms of software update, we expect the phone to get another 4 to 5 years of major software update because it is a very new phone. And when it comes to performance of the software here, when I start to open up all the apps, you'll notice here they open up without really any issues here. As you can see here, it just simply pops up, open it up. When you open up your major apps that you have, won't have really much of an issue for you when you're trying to use it. And it pretty much pretty much works as expected, from your favorite social media apps to just simply apps for video streaming, music streaming. Even when it comes to gaming, it can handle heavy graphic gaming without really any issues. And that's the beautiful part about this phone, its ability to pretty much deliver a lot of power when it comes to just multitasking on this device. Again, just the 1 year old phone, it kind of shows that with Apple phone, they usually tend to hold up pretty well for a good 5 to 6 years without any issues, and that kind of gives to show on the iPhone 13 here. So finally, to really conclude the video, is the iPhone 13 worth it going into 2023? It absolutely is. And the follow-up question, is it worth upgrading to iPhone 13 to iPhone 14? Now, when it comes to the upgrade, you're really looking at very minimal upgrade themselves, which we mentioned here was things like in the phone from 13 to 14, crash detection is the new feature that comes with it. Then there's also the SOS feature for emergency calling via satellite, which isn't available on the iPhone 13 here. Things like in the camera upgrade, you got that action mode, and then just in the battery life upgrade, which is only 1 hour more, doesn't really make a difference for it. But what the iPhone 13 has going for it compared to the 14 is its physical SIM card, which on the US model on the iPhone 14 no longer has a physical SIM card, which matters for a lot of people, because if you're a person that likes to travel or likes to take out your SIM card without having to call your carrier on unlocked phone, you can pretty much switch out the SIM card and without having to activate an eSIM card every time to do that, which again matters for a lot of people. That's probably a pro to the iPhone 13 year. And then lastly, in terms of cost this year, now if you're looking to buy a brand new Apple, you can go on Apple's website, buy the iPhone 13 still, because Apple still sells it. You're paying around $699 for the base 128 gig, and then a little bit more extra for more gig, compared to the iPhone 14, which starts at $799 with the base 128 gig. But if you're just upgrading from older phone, just looking at the 13 and the 14, if you don't care about the physical SIM card, you would probably consider go with the iPhone 14, just because it is the newer phone. But when it comes to budget friendliness, in terms of if you want to get a pre-owned device, or one that's used slightly, you can get it off eBay or Amazon pretty much for a few $100s less than the retail cost. So you can probably score the phone around $500, even $400 if you look around, which will leave some link in the description section if you guys want to check it out as well. And of course, to going to conclude the video, we think that here, as you can see here, based on all of our reviews, the iPhone 13 is definitely worth it in terms of performance, the hardware, the software, and everything else as well. So we want to hear from you guys. What's your thought on the iPhone 13 here? If you use it, if you're currently using it, if you upgraded to it, if you upgraded from the 13 to 14, and also share that experience in the comments section as well. And while you're at it, we really appreciate you guys hitting that like and subscribe button. In our next video, we're going to try to review some of the other newer phones and give you guys a real update on which is the best phone going into 2023. Hopefully you guys can join us for those videos, and if so, make sure that like and subscribe button. See you guys next time.